People think the loudest arguments end marriages. Mine almost ended without a single raised voice. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. Nothing special, nothing memorable. At least that's what I believed when I sent the message. My name is Claire. My husband Daniel and I had been married for 12 years. We weren't perfect. No marriages, but we had survived layoffs, financial struggles, two cross country moves, and the loss of people we both loved. I believed nothing could break us. I was wrong. That afternoon, my coworkers and I were joking during lunch. One of them rolled her eyes and laughed. My husband forgot our anniversary again. Another said, "Men never change." Everyone laughed, trying to join the conversation. I picked up my phone and sent Daniel a sarcastic message. Sometimes I wonder if I married the wrong man. To me, it was obviously a joke. I expected him to reply with another joke. Maybe a laughing emoji, maybe one of his usual sarcastic comments. Instead, he didn't answer. 3 hours later, I arrived home. Daniel was sitting on the back porch. A cup of coffee rested beside him. His phone lay face down on the table. He looked unusually calm. Too calm, I smiled. "Hey." He looked up. "Hey, did you get my message?" He nodded. "I did." I laughed awkwardly. It was just a stupid joke. He smiled. "I know." His calmness unsettled me more than anger ever could. I sat beside him. "So, you're not mad?" He looked out toward the backyard. "I'm not angry. I've just been thinking about what?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he picked up his coffee, took one slow sip, then quietly asked, "Claire, when was the last time you told me you were proud of me?" The question caught me completely off guard. I I don't know." He nodded gently. I couldn't remember either. A long silence settled between us. Birds chirped in the distance. A lawnmower hummed somewhere down the street. Everything around us felt normal except us. Finally, Daniel reached into his pocket, pulled out his wedding ring, looked at it for several seconds. Then, without saying another word, he placed it carefully into my hand. I stared at it, confused, terrified. "Daniel, what are you doing?" He looked directly into my eyes for the first time that day. His smile disappeared. Then he quietly said, "I don't think that message was really a joke." I couldn't breathe. The wedding ring felt impossibly heavy in my hand. "Daniel, what are you talking about?" He didn't look angry. He looked exhausted. The kind of exhausted that doesn't come from one bad day. It comes from carrying something for years. He folded his hands together. "I know you meant the text as a joke, but jokes usually come from somewhere." I shook my head. "It was just something my coworkers were saying. I wasn't serious." He nodded slowly. "I believe you." But the message wasn't what hurt. I frowned. Then what did? He smiled sadly. "It reminded me of everything we've stopped saying to each other." I stayed silent. He continued, "Do you remember when I got promoted 3 years ago?" I nodded. "Of course." I came home excited. I wanted to celebrate. He looked at the ground. "You said, 'That's nice. Can you take the trash out before dinner?'" I closed my eyes. I remembered. At the time, I had been overwhelmed with work. I hadn't meant to dismiss him, but intentions don't erase memories. He wasn't finished. When I started fixing up the garage, I hoped we'd spend weekends together. You were always busy. When I learned to cook because your schedule became hectic, you thanked me once. Then it simply became expected. Each sentence landed harder than the one before. Not because he was accusing me, because he wasn't. He was simply telling me how lonely he'd felt inside our marriage. I whispered, "Why didn't you tell me?" He smiled. I tried several times, but every conversation turned into, "We'll talk later. I'm tired. Can we do this tomorrow?" Tomorrow had quietly turned into years. Tears filled my eyes. "I never wanted you to feel invisible." "I know," he answered immediately. "I never thought you were cruel. I just think we slowly stopped seeing each other." That sentence broke me because it was true. There hadn't been one huge betrayal, no affair, no explosive fight, just thousands of ordinary days where appreciation slowly disappeared. I looked down at the ring still resting in my palm. Are you leaving me? He shook his head. No. I took the ring off so you'd finally realize how serious this conversation is. He reached across the table. I'm not giving up on us. I'm asking you to notice us. I started crying, real crying. Not because I thought I'd lost my husband, because I suddenly realized how close we had come. I stood up and wrapped my arms around him. I'm sorry, not for the message, for everything I stopped saying long before that message. He hugged me tightly. I've missed you. I've been sitting beside you every day, but I've missed you. That night, we talked until nearly 2 in the morning. No television, no phones, no distractions for the first time in years. We talked the way we had when we were dating about fears, dreams, regrets, the little things we'd stopped sharing. Before we finally went inside, I picked up the wedding ring from the table. I smiled through my tears. You forgot something. He looked at me. No, I was waiting. I gently slid the ring back onto his finger. This time, it felt less like a piece of jewelry and more like a promise we'd nearly forgotten. The next morning, I sent him another message. It simply read, if I had to choose all over again, I'd still choose you. Less than a minute later, my phone buzzed. Daniel replied, that's my favorite message you've ever sent. Sometimes the most important conversation in a marriage begins with the words we wish we'd said years earlier.